Question. X, Y, and Z were partners in a firm, sharing profits in the ratio of 2 is to 2 is to 1. On 31st March 2020, their balance sheet was as follows. Balance sheet, liability side, creditors 60,000, bills payable 40,000, general reserve 30,000, capitals X 3 lakh, Y 3 lakhs, Z 1 lakh 30,000. Asset side, cash at bank 90,000, stock 70,000, debtors 40,000, land and building 5 lakhs, profit and loss account, that is loss for the year entered 31st March 2020, 1 lakh 60,000, balance sheet total 8 lakh 60,000. Why died on 30th June 2020? Partnership deed provided for the following on the death of a partner. Goodwill of the business was to be calculated on the basis of 2 times the average profits of the past 5 years. The profits for the years entered 31st March 2019, 31st March 2018, 31st March 2017 and 31st March 2016 were 50,000, 80,000, 1,10,000 and 2,20,000 respectively. Y's share of profit or loss from 1st April 2020 till his death was to be calculated on the basis of profits or loss for the year entered 31st March 2020. You are required to calculate the following. Goodwill of the firm and Y's share of goodwill at the time of his death. Then Y's share in the profits or loss of the firm till the date of his death. Then prepare Y's capital account at the time of his death to be presented to his executors. Partners are X, Y and Z. Their old ratio 2 is to 2 is to 1. Deceased partner Y. Goodwill of the firm is calculated on the basis of 2 times the average profits of past 5 years. Profits for 4 years were given in the adjustment and last year's or 5th year's profit is given in the asset side of the balance sheet. That is rupees 1,60,000. It is a loss. Then profit up to the date of death. Y's share of profit up to the date of death is calculated on the basis of profit for the year ended 31st March 2020. 31st March 2020, profit for the year ended, profit or loss for the year ended 31st March 2020 is given on the asset side of the balance sheet. That means it is a loss. Working note, calculation of goodwill. Goodwill is valued at 2 years purchase of average profits of 5 years. Profits of 5 years were 50,000, 80,000, 1,10,000, 2,20,000 and 1,60,000. 1,60,000 is a loss because it is given on the asset side of the balance sheet. Average profit equal 50,000 plus 80,000 plus 1,10,000 plus 2,20,000 minus 1,60,000 divided by 5. 1,60,000 is deducted because it is a loss. Goodwill of the firm is average profit into 2. Goodwill equal 1,20,000. 1,20,000 is the firm's goodwill. Y's share of goodwill equal 1,20,000 into Y's share in profit. Y's share in profit is 2 by 5 equal 48,000. Y's share of goodwill 48,000, which is contributed by X and Z in their gaining ratio of 2 is to 1. Compensation payable by X is 32,000 and Z is 16,000. Next, Y's share in loss, that is the loss up to the date of death or profit and loss suspense account. Loss up to the date of death, profit or loss up to the date of death is calculated on the basis of previous year's profit. or on the basis of profit for the year ended 31st March 2020. 31st March 2020, the profit or loss is 1,60,000, which is given on the asset side of the balance sheet. That means it is a loss. So Y's share in loss up to the date of death equal 1,60,000 into Y's share in profit 2 by 5 into 3 by 12. 3 by 12 is the period from last balance sheet to the date of death. Balance sheet date. Last balance sheet date is 31st March 2020 and date of death is 30th June 2020. From 31st March 2020 to 30th June 2020, 3 months. April, May, June, 3 months. So Y's share in loss equal 1,60,000 into 3 by 12 into 2 by 5 equal 16,000. Next, deceased partner's capital account or Y's capital account. Y's capital account credit side by balance brought down rupees 3 lakh. That is the balance standing to the credit of his capital account or capital balance as per last balance sheet, rupees 3 lakh. Then by general reserve, 30,000 into 2 by 5 equal 12,000. Then compensation given by X and Z. By X capital account 32,000, by Z's capital account 16,000. Next, Y's capital account debit side profit and loss, that is his share in accumulated loss, which is given on the asset side of the balance sheet. Balance sheet last item profit and loss account rupees 1,60,000. That is an accumulated loss. His share in accumulated loss or his share in profit and loss 1,60,000 into 2 by 5 equal 64,000. Then profit and loss suspense account, that is the loss up to the date of death 16,000. Next, balancing figure 2,80,000, which is transferred to the executors of Y. To Y's executors account 2,80,000.